Welcome to Liana series of episodes. Today we have the pleasure to host Gabriel. As a senior lead consultant, Gabriel has overseen the design of more than 15 onshore and offshore wind farm projects around 8 different countries. A wide intercontinental trajectory across LATAM and EMEA, as well as a genuine curiosity around the issue, have granted Gabriel a deep understanding of wind-based renewable generation. In this episode, he shares a close look at offshore wind farms, from their international context to the ins and outs of their fabrication, deployment, and outputs, all wrapped up in the manners of a clever, assertive gentleman. Gabriel, thank you for joining.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. In fact, I'm so glad to be here.
Really glad to have you on board also, Gabriel. So, could you please give us a general overview of what is renewable energy, which type of different energy we have?
Okay, let's start with the concept that human nature needs energy to be fitted. Okay, societies need energy for working. From the very beginning, we need to eat, and as we are growing as a society, something more complex than just an organism, we need different kind of energy, different sources of energy to start growing and to keep running. In that case, it's something that we as society cannot avoid to have. And with the evolution of society, we need to start keeping not just for bigger or harder ways to find energy, but also for more sustainable ones, as I think that our goal as a species is to keep existing. Now, in that case, trying to look forward in what will be the future, we need to start digging deeper in the capacities or in the possibilities that we can found for supplying this necessity that we have. That's where renewable energies start growing. Now, we have plenty of options. Talking about renewable energy is, I don't know, maybe talking about food. There's so many ways to burn. There's so many options to start understanding. And the truth is that the difference, technically speaking, between different sources of renewable energy may be even bigger than the difference that fossil or nuclear industry has for one of the branches. So if we talk about renewable energy, maybe the only thing that joins all the group together is the sustainability. Okay, is for me the only word that really represented. But technically speaking, there are extremely divergences in between them. Okay, so if we're talking about hydroelectricity or we're talking about sun energy, it's something that technically speaking, the way of designing the business case that you start studying, it are completely different that wind industry, for example.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if we have to put into phases the different category, we have hydraulic energy, solar energy, and wind energy, right?
Exactly.
Those are the three different categories.
Let's say that they are the three more traditional ones, but this is something that if we speak, I don't know, 50 years ago, they wouldn't exist. Now on, we have more options, not so good developed. They don't have the longer trajectory that we from wind energy have, for example. But be aware that 20 years, 15 years from now, we will be talking about a fourth, a fifth category.
Okay, so up to date, how much renewable energy are we consuming?
This is something that I'm really proud to answer, okay? Because when I started in this business here in Barcelona, where I'm located, we back then in 2017 started working in a European macro project called Horizon 2020, with the goal of having at least the 15% of energy generated made by renewable resources. Okay, this year, 2023, with a little delay of the initial goal, we achieved the 53% of renewable energy consumed.
Okay.
It means not just wind energy, solar, hydroelectricity, all together. So this is a group work, but it's a very good goal that we surely are proud, all of us, about.
Okay, so let's congratulate us then. And
Yep.
which has been the role of public funds in this rise?
Okay, here we need to understand in the same way about timing, how I'm explaining you, that renewable energies are quite young in difference that I don't know, fossil energies or nuclear energies. Okay, it means that we are playing or we are swimming against the current. To compete in an open market with a product that has more than 100 years being developed is quite hard. So considering that the production is the only good thing that we have to compete with fossil energy, which makes us unfeasible. Even if we are having profit, we won't have the same profit for a start that an enterprise centenary has. In that case, as any new product development, we need investigation, we need investors in that. Who more or who more capable or who more near to offer this to their population than governments. So public funds are the main route, maybe not now that we reach this 53%, but at the very beginning were the main route for start, for developing a product and for starting designing something not just feasible, but competitive with the industry that we have.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And we know that one of the main drawbacks of renewable energy is their unpredictability. Would you say that offshore wind generation has any particularity in this regard?
Yeah, yeah. I have a kind of a comparison that I would like to bring out. Okay, if you see as a society, humankind relates in sea to develop. Okay, it's the way that we travel, it's the way that we commerce, it's the way that we start knowing and we get to where we want it to be. And this is because when we sorry.
Don't be. It's okay.
No. No. This is because one reason. The wind in the sea is more continuous and more intense. So, yes, to be attached to the environment sometimes plays against you in ways of defining how much you can produce per day. This is something that we also face in offshore wind. Okay, you cannot predict 100% the wind, but what is sure is always the wind blows harder and continuouser than on Earth.
Okay. So it is actually more predictable. Offshore generation is actually more predictable than photovoltaic generation, for instance.
Is the natural way it is, the behavior of the wind as a storm even is more predictable. Also, this is something that we do have more than 100 years studying. Okay, the sea wind is something that carrying us to where we are as humankind.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Gabriel. From this point on, we will be focusing on renewables as a business. So you already mentioned something interesting, which is that in terms of profitability, it is difficult for renewable energies to compete in an open in an open market with fossil fuels. So I can understand that in terms of profitability, they have still some margin of improvement. They are still being born, being right. They are still at a very early stage of their development.
Yeah. Let's put some number on that. When I start with this business, or specifically in the offshore area, the capacity or the potence of a wind turbine was about 8 megawatts.
Okay.
Now on, 7 years later, we're talking about less than a decade. The current offer per machine is around 16 megawatts. So in less than a decade, we duplicate the capacity that each turbine can do. It means that with almost the same price, or in the same concept, with only one tower, that even if it's a bigger one, it's still one tower, and in terms of cost, is around the same, we're producing the double of energy.
Okay.
So for me, it's really clear that it's a profitable business.
Okay.
The thing is competing with the regular sources of energy.
Okay.
We may not be in the point of the curve in which it's clearly the most profitable option, but for sure we are ahead too.
Okay. And as you mentioned, it is clear that it's also a business that offers a wide range of opportunities because it is developing faster than fossil fuel, for instance.
Yep.
So it is maybe not so profitable as them, but still it has a very sloped projection in front of their way. Okay, I can see. And in terms of the risks to which this business confrontates, would you say that in regard to scarce and rare metals, the renewable energies are very dependent on them, right? Is this a critical issue for that business?
Yes, it is. And in fact, the thing is that we produce energy as every source of energy. We need to transmit this energy some way. Current way, and in the way that it has been for the last 2,000 years, is through cables. Okay. Every time that we start increasing the energy that goes through those cables, we are increasing the section of the cable. It means adding more material, more and more. Current cables that we use in offshore wind powers may reach the 200 millimeters diameter. So yeah, it's something that I cannot carry a couple of meters with my hands. Also, inside each tower, we have plenty of low voltage signal cables. It's traduced in aluminum and copper that start getting hard to find.
Okay.
One of the possibilities that we have for developing even more the business, it doesn't apply just for renewable energies, I have to admit, but for me, it's the critical point to review and to improve is the transmission of energy. Maybe with what we're calling superconductors, maybe with this very interesting Tesla's idea of wireless energy transmission.
Okay.
In any case,
that could be.
Once we achieve this opportunity, is something that not just will impact the renewable energies, but all the way of living and energy consuming that we have.
I can see. Thank you. And to close the part of renewables as a business, I have heard that in terms of productivity, there is a huge difference between onshore wind farms and offshore wind farms. Is that true?
Yes. Current current capacity in market for offshore wind turbines are around 16 megawatts. The usual capacity of an onshore turbine won't be about 5.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In
Okay,
that
so
case,
there's a huge difference between them.
yeah, but
Okay,
as you can imagine, there's a huge difference in the complication of installation.
I can see. So the offshore wind farms are more profitable, but they are also more complex to build.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
why one of the things that we have to deal with is how to make the turbines endure more. Okay,
Okay.
if we can last longer the lifetime of each one of the turbines and make only one investment,
Mm-hmm.
will be good enough to keep producing this high rate of energy that we have and not to lose more time each time that we need to build a new tower.
I can see. I can see.
Could we say that offshore is also more predictable than the offshore, or it's the same?
No, for sure it's more predictable than onshore.
Okay.
Every time that an onshore wind farm is located, they need to aim for hills or for extremely plain terrains in which the wind blows kind of high and kind of predictable, but even so, being on Earth, you don't have the same wind movement that we have in the sea. That's
Okay.
why
I can
we're
see.
capable. Yep, and that's why we are capable to locate these very powered turbines there, and not in the onshore area, because even if we put an onshore turbine of 60 megawatts capacity, it won't be possible to achieve the full capacity of the wind turbine with the current wind.
I
Okay.
can see.
Right now that we know that it's more offshore wind farms is more predictable and more profitable, we want to deep dive a bit into like the general composition of an offshore wind farm. Could you tell us which elements constitute it? How far is it from continental lands? Like
Sorry,
general Yeah,
Can you
can you hear me
explain the
properly?
general composition of an offshore wind farm? Like
of course.
how far can it be from land? How many towers may constitute it? How separated are in
Okay,
between them? Like the general composition, a general outline of an offshore wind farm.
okay. Let's get a step by step. Okay, let's explain how a offshore wind tower looks like.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
starting from top to bottom. First, we will have the machine. It's what we call nacelle. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
in the nacelle is where the energy is produced, basically the head of the fan. So in the nacelles, we have the blades located. So all the energy is received through, we have all the machinery and engines to capture the energy and drop it.
Okay.
Later, with the main purpose of giving height to the nacelle, is the tower. The tower needs to be a structural element capable to endure the weight of the nacelle, also with the wind movement or with the wind forces applied to it. This is the primary concept of tower. But as you can imagine, you need to access to the nacelle, you need to make evacuations plans, you need to illuminate the tower inside. So even if the main concept of the tower is a structural pipe to support the nacelle, inside there's plenty of secondary elements that make it a really complex building.
Okay.
Below the nacelle, and is the only part in contact with the sea, is the substructure, what in buildings will go below the earth level.
Mm-hmm.
In the substructure, we have the main support that transmits all this weight to the seabed, okay? Because in any way, most of the offshore wind towers are connected to the sea. Some of them are floating. Even so, we have some substructure in contact with the sea too. Also, we have the inlet and outlet weight from vessels. So you need some way to receive the people that is going to go through. And even if we can have helicopter access, the usual way is to get with vessels to the substructure. And later we have what we call the evacuation cable. Is what we're talking about, this very big cable that sends the energy out of the tower through an offshore substructure and later from the substructure to the onshore facilities.
Okay.
These three parts, nacelle, tower, and substructure, is what compose a wind tower.
Okay.
Once you have the wind tower... No.
He's just starting, Melissa. Let him finish.
Okay, once you have the wind tower, you replicate it as many times as you can to make the wind farm. Even if we may have very slightly difference in between towers in the wind farm, what usually happens is to have a replica, just copy pasted 150 times, depending on the capacity, depending on the budget.
150 times, okay.
Well, in between 150 if it's a small one, I don't know, 120 is a very big wind farm, but usually the number is a little below 100.
Okay. Hey, and how tall can a tower be? How tall can it get, including the nacelle and all? How tall can it get?
Including the nacelle, this is something that we call axis height. That doesn't include the height of the blades.
The blade.
One are up, because that's cheating. It's not part of the building. But the height through the axis of the fan. It used to be the usual measure to say how tall is a wind tower. So in my mind, I have two major numbers. For onshore wind tower, the biggest one in which I've been participated is 180 meters.
Wow. Okay.
A concrete prototype, something really hard to find, but this is the new goal. And in fact, we try to go from that to highest.
Higher? Okay.
And in offshore, we have little above 120, 123, 125.
Okay.
At
so
least
on the order of 1,000. Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay. And are all components like the nacelle, the pipe, the surf, construction, and all the secondary elements, are all components prefabricated at the same place?
Not really. And in fact, it's pretty normal that depending on the product definition, depending on the business plan, the three components can be made in completely different places. It's pretty usual.
And they are assembled. I'm sorry, Gabriel.
Yeah.
They get assembled inland, and they are transported. They get assembled in the sea. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What you do is this pre-assemble of each one of the components. By example, you have the nacelle without blades. The blades are so long that it's really hard to transport even alone. But you have the nacelle with all the inner components inside. You have the blades. You pre-assemble the tower with all the secondary elements on it. We pre-assemble the substructure if there's component to be pre-assembled. And you transport it, each one of them separately, and install it in the logical sequence from the bottom to top.
Okay.
It's pretty common that the difference in time between installation of one or another element is more than 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, sometimes you need to define a special protection measure for more than a year. In case that you have bad weather conditions that gets longer. or well, anything goes wrong, we need to be prepared to have this gap in time between stages.
Okay. And can I ask, Gabriel, regarding the basement, okay, regarding the substructure, are there like different types of substructure, or are they all the same?
Yeah,
How do we deal with this?
this is something very related in where do you want to put the tower in. Okay, as you can imagine, there's difference in seas. Okay, it's not the same in the Caribbean that it is in the Mediterranean, or it's not the same in the middle of the ocean, or maybe in Japan. So you need to adapt to these not just sea but sea land conditions below.
Okay.
In that case, the most important parameter is the water depth.
Okay.
Okay. Consider water depth and other parameters. There may be three main types of substructure. Okay. Starting for the simple one is what we call GBS, gravity-based substructure, that are substructure that basically are just supported on the seabed without any kind of mechanical connections that goes through the land.
Okay.
It works with self-weight, but in that case, you need not just low depth, but low sea currents. As designing a building, you need to know that the wind won't blow the building. You need to know that the water won't take out the substructure.
Okay.
So it works with completely self-weight, have a equilibrium in force, and later you locate tower and nacelle on. The second one is called jacket. The jacket are still, I forgot the word for celosias.
Well, like nets, like metal nets,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So still a structure conformed by hollow pipes, making a net that indeed goes through the soil in the end of the substructure. Yeah, in the end of the structure, you basically nail it in the seabed. It allows you to have it's lighter, it's easier to transport. That's something that it's really heavy and hard to carry as a gravity base. It allows you to have taller substructure, which means that you can reach deeper waters.
I can see.
The last one,
we can feel that it's quite complex, and I would like to know which technology is used to plan construction stages to make it like fluent.
It's nothing really different that you can have in any project. Okay, we're talking about you can use any commercial software that you have from construction management, by example. And the thing is that with the complexity of this type of project, where not just the interior design is included, not just the let's say the construction of the tower as a building is involved, but you need to focus it more like building an airplane or building a car. So you don't just need to have the wheels, even there's someone designing the stereo to play the music. We use the same kind of softwares, we use the same kind of trackers, but in a very, very high complex way.
But you use software, I mean, you inherit software from the automotive industry, for instance.
Exactly. 3D modeling, even project following is something that we are attached from that. It's easier to relate a wind tower more to a car or an airplane that you can relate to a building. Even in modern and complex building, you don't have as many modules as we have.
I can see. Gabriel, and tell me something. How much energy can be generated in a standard offshore wind farm? I mean, if we, for example, imagine that I am the mayor of a city, right? And I am asking you, hey, Gabriel, how much energy would you be able to produce in this farm? Uh, which would be your answer?
Okay, depending on the amount of tower, but let's go to gross number. Okay, let's say
Mm-hmm,
100 towers.
mm-hmm.
Current capacity of a wind tower and offshore wind tower is about 16 megawatts,
Okay,
which means 16,000 people to be fed with energy
okay,
in an optimal way. Okay,
okay,
because this is the capacity of the wind tower. According the wind, according the moment, the turbine can achieve the full capacity or not.
I can
If we
see.
take an average in between full capacity and zero, we're talking about 8,000 people being fed per tower.
Okay, 8,000 people being fed by tower. Okay,
By tower, if the wind farm has 100 towers, you will talk about 800,000 people being fed with this wind farm.
okay, okay. Forecasting an average level of productivity. So we could say that a standard offshore wind farm could allow us to feed a small city, right? Could
Yep,
be enough to produce
will
the
be enough.
energy consumed by a small city. Okay, okay. So it's
Also,
actually very productive. Mm-hmm.
before to throw flowers in in my field, I have to admit one thing. These numbers are based in domestic consume. Okay, if we go to
Okay,
industrial consume, it's kind of different. Okay, but for domestic and commercial consume, what you can found in the center of a city
mm-hmm.
is what we can.
Okay. So it's a relevant disclaimer. Okay,
Yeah.
so okay. So it's for domestic consume. Okay, but still it's a huge amount. Okay. Okay, Gabriel. And to close with this chapter, I would like to ask you in terms of regulation, okay, which are the main standards that apply to offshore wind farms as they are in, I can assume, intercontinental in
Mhm.
yeah, international areas, international
Yeah.
seas. Which regulation
Yeah.
applies?
It's a very, very long answer. And I think that the only concrete answer that I give you is all of this.
Okay,
So
all of them.
with that,
Hmm.
I mean that every one of the biggest wind farm producers
Hmm.
don't produce for only one continent. So they need to adapt their product for regulations in maybe all the 5 continents. Okay, it's
Okay,
pretty common that you design a tower to be capable to be installed in Japan at the same time that you can install it in, I don't know, Brazil.
I can see.
In that way, you need to increase the scope of regulation to basically all the world.
Hmm.
Later, we have a second parameter to fulfill, that is the amount of modules that we have in the design. We're talking
Hmm.
about electrical design, we're talking about the structural design, we're talking about a sea signals for navigation. We're talking about aviation signals for navigation. We are talking about safe health and safety, evacuations. Uh,
Okay,
so the scope
so
of
there are a lot
regulation,
of regulations that
yeah,
apply. Okay.
it's
Mm.
really, really hard. As you can imagine, in this kind of projects, we have involved any kind of professionals. Okay, so from not just let's talk only for a design point of view. Okay,
Hmm.
we need to have involved a lot of electrical, industrial, structural engineers, and
Hmm.
professionals dedicated only for health and safety, professionals dedicated only for environment impact,
Hmm.
professionals dedicated only for navigation and marine interactions, professional, and in fact this is very important, orientated only for signals and cybersecurity even.
I can see. Okay, so it's a complex arena. Okay,
Yeah.
Gabriel. So, Melissa, do you have anything else to?
Yeah, I have one more questions about like which percentage of the consumption we have per continent, like South America of offshore wind farm. Do you know the consumption maybe in Africa, South America, more or less?
Remember what we say at the beginning, know the
Yeah.
role of public investment in that. Okay, in that way is very logical to think that countries with more economic or with a better economic situation has more capacity of installing aeolic wind farms. In that case, we can see it in the difference for the wind farms installed in the North Sea, even in the Atlantic area of North America, in comparison with South America or even in the Mediterranean Sea.
So it
I
varies
wouldn't.
greatly. And also, in terms of data availability, Melissa, I think that it's not the same in between continents. For example, in Europe, we do monitor the origin of our consumptions, but I have searched African data and it's hard to find because most countries don't publish their statistics, so it's harder to estimate.
Even so, with the right orientation, to get this data is something not really hard to do. Okay, I think that we got nowadays the required technology to make a measurement campaign that won't last longer than a couple of years, to have all the data that we need for installing properly a business in any country in the world. But once again, it's a matter of starting with public investment. Right now, with the current product, and as I said, our production was duplicated in 7 years. Right now, we may not reach without the public investment any country. The idea is to improve the product so good that will be an obvious option to buy, even if we don't have a public investment.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much, Gabriel. I think that we have huge improvement also, and we learn a lot. We are heading the end of the interview, but before that, considering what we discussed, how can our audience engage with an improvement into that field, the renewables, energy in general, and more specifically with the offshore wind farms? We are talking about citizens, companies, regulators, entrepreneurs. How can we engage?
This is something. This is a question that have been around my mind now for the last couple of weeks, and this is something that I will ask to anyone possible. This is something that anyone can do, and is try to get more involved in what is happening around you regarding new developments, not just for renewable industries, as you say, but taking the renewable industry, taking the offshore wind industry, by example. Here in Spain, we have patents, we have offshore wind towers, and most of the people doesn't know it. We have prototypes capable to produce 8 megabytes per tower, installing and running. We from Barcelona, we from Madrid maybe, designed towers capable to reach 100 meters. We design things and they are available, they are out there, but people don't get interested, don't get involved, and sadly, it not appears in the mainstream media. If people start getting know what is happening around them, we'll start asking for it. We start demanding more sustainable ways of energy because we have. It's not like a dream, it's a reality. And I will ask the general population try to get more in touch with what they already have.
It's a nice claim. Because actually population is what drives, it's what keeps the wheel running.
Yep.
It's what drives regulation, incentives, companies, and so on. Okay. Okay, Gabriel, thank you so much for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on board with us. I hope our audience can make the most of your insights, which are very valuable, at least for us. And I hope you enjoy the experience.
Completely. Thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you, Gabriel.
I really appreciate being here with you.